Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Flank. I'm joined by the one and only, the world champ himself, some of the best analysis in the game. Give it up for Chris Duarte, a.k.a. Parasite. We got the multi-champion, the world champion, the human turret, one of the best ARs to ever do it, Sam LaRue, a.k.a. Octane. We got the one and only, the multi-world champion, the multi-champion, a legend and icon to the Call of Duty scene, Patrick Price, a.k.a. Eggs. And, of course, the one and only, the executive producer of The Flank. Give it up for Ben J. Nassim. Gentlemen, it's been a while since all five of us have grouped our. Sam, what are you laughing at? Are you laughing at Pat's webcam? Hey, Pat, you look like you're in heaven, Pat. You look like you're in heaven.
Oh, too weird.
Yo, Pat.
It looks good, though. Pat, it looks good, though. Yeah, we thought it was clouds. I thought you were up in the clouds or something.
Honestly, Pat, I think we got to start with you, bro. Like, I heard you went to jail. That's where you're streaming out of.
Hey,
bro,
hey,
takes green wall.
He's got
called in from prison.
Prison tattooed on his body, bro.
Hey, he called in from prison, bro. Go ahead, Pat.
This is my setup. Y'all know.
You moved.
Yeah, I'm in Dallas now. And this is all I need my setup for is this show right here.
How you liking it? How you liking it, Pat? Are you liking Dallas?
Sam, this is the Herman Miller, baby. Come on.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, shit. Wasn't familiar with your game.
On the couch.
Yeah, how's Dallas, Pat? You liking it?
Oh, my God.
It's good. It's hot as fuck, but it's good.
Yeah, it is. Well, this time of the year especially, it's going to be hot, but it'll probably cool down eventually. Sam, how you doing, man? I missed you, Sam. I missed you, bro. We didn't have you for EWC.
Yeah, I was on vacation, taking all those vacation days. I'm back though, man. We're good.
That's good. I know EWC was tough. You were away. I had the wedding that I had to go to. We had the rehearsal dinner one day, wedding another day. I was the best man, so there was a lot going on with that.
I wasn't watching LAT make finals,
Yeah, no, that's actually kind of cool. What are your thoughts on that, Sam? We haven't talked about that with you. I mean, your squad made it all the way, man. They made a good run though, Sam. A really good run.
Good. I'm just a curse, dude. I can't pick them to win series, and if I don't watch the event, they make finals. So.
Yeah,
cool.
I just thought it was cool that LA Thieves towards the end of the year just looked so good, and just seeing like how much LA Thieves spent this year. Like I know they were on a budget cut this year, and just being able to make the most out of that situation, I thought was pretty cool to see from LA Thieves this year. Yeah, I mean they got a great team too. They got a lot of young players. Like those guys are all real. Like Joe and Cramp and all those guys are young. So they got a bright future ahead of them for sure. But yeah, Chris, how are you doing? You doing all right, Duarte? What you been up to?
Moved into a new place. Just been decorating, building furniture, streaming, just on the grind. Finally, feeling like, it's feeling like home now. So, I mean, I'm ready to get back into it. We got the beta coming up. I'm super excited. I'm a big gameplay streamer, so I love that shit. And I've been good, man. Can't complain.
Yeah, beta's coming up in 6 days. So I'm excited for that too. How long is the beta? It's out for like a week, right? Or like
it's a couple. I think it's like 6 days, 7 days.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 days, and then there's a week break, and then it'll be the open beta for pretty much everyone.
That's dope. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm excited for. I mean, just watching the beta and watching the clips. I mean, I don't know how the fuck people are even playing this shit. I don't know how people are even getting a hold of this.
PS4s.
Yeah, I mean, jailbreaking a PlayStation 4. I mean, seriously, what the fuck? But just seeing it, I think it looks great. Like the gameplay looks really good. The movement, it seems like it's a very fast-paced gameplay. I just think it looks like a lot of fun.
Treyarch is fucking back, dude. They've been actually, this is a little bit like not multiplayer related, but they've been teasing a lot of stuff for zombies too. And I know Pat's super excited for zombies. He's been talking about it, but zombies in general just like actually looks kind of fun. So as a person that grinds like the camos and shit, like for everything, I'm gonna be playing both. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, I forgot about that too.
I kind of hate that. Because they did the same shit in Cold War, and I think they're doing the same thing now. They're like integrating the camos into zombies, so you start with loadouts. I don't really like that. I like to start with
it's loadout-based zombies?
Yeah, I think so.
That's one thing though. You could just make a loadout with a pistol and start with the pistol
if
you really wanted to. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, you could cheese it, but I just wish that was like the original
standard. Yeah,
how it was.
Like you have to get the guns off the wall and shit and progress through the game. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I didn't know it was like that. I've never really been like a big zombies guy. I'll play it sometimes, but I mean, I'm more of like a ranked play, like multiplayer type of guy. But Ben, what about you? You been golfing? What you been up to?
I played golf yesterday with Mike, I think. Played pretty well, but like I just been like kind of coming back from Saudi. I was just a little jet lagged in the middle of the week, just like coming back. So I finally like kind of got a handle on that. Just trying to kind of enjoy a little bit of a slow period before the beta comes out. Just been talking to Rostermania on streams, doing some fantasy football type stuff. I'm just really kind of excited for this sort of end of August, early September of like the beta, college football coming back, the NFL coming back, the U.S. Open, like all that stuff all at the same time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Also, I want to wish a happy birthday to the one and only Ben J. I know we're
thank
late,
you.
Ben, but we just wanted to take some time.
41?
Yeah, go on, brother.
Hey, shout out to my man Ben J. Man, happy birthday to Ben.
Ben
Ben
We're
has
just adding years now. We're just gonna keep going up.
Ben. How old are you now, Ben?
34.
34, man. You're still young, man. You're still young, Ben.
I appreciate it.
Still
Tom.
young.
Thank you.
You're looking good, Ben. And you're looking good.
You're looking good as well, Tom.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. You know what I mean? Black Ops 6 is nearly here, and if you guys didn't know, if you're an Xfinity customer, you get to play the game a whole week earlier. Xfinity customers just log in or sign up right now for Xfinity Rewards at xfinity.com/rewards, and there you can get your code and hop right over and play the beta August 30th. And as a bonus, I'll be giving away 25 extra access codes to the community, all because of Xfinity. So make sure to go follow me on Twitter and check it out on August 29th. Make sure to share this with your squad so you can all get early access to get ready to play on August 30th. Again, huge shout out to Xfinity. Wouldn't be possible without them. I'll see you guys on the map. Take care. Hey, we got a lot to talk about today, folks. Just a lot of roster changes going on. There's just been a lot happening since we've regrouped, and we haven't been together, all 5 of us, on a show since, I think, Champs. So, this is going to be a good episode. I definitely want to get through everything that's been talked about. I got my nice list here that Benjay made, and we're going to go through it and talk about some of these rosters and some of these changes that are going on, because Rostermania is in full effect. And I'll be honest, Rostermania took effect really quickly. Were people making changes on the plane in Saudi Arabia?
I was on a flight with a lot of people. We were all kind of on the same flight while some of this stuff was getting tweeted. I'm like, well, this shit's getting weird, because I see TJ tweeting now, and he's 3 rows in front of me. I'm sitting next to Tucker. Tucker's like talking to Gersh about memes on the Flank account. Like, it's all kicking off. We're on the same 8-hour flight.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy. Like, imagine finding out you get dropped on like a 12-hour flight or something. I mean, you're losing composure. You're losing composure if that happens, for sure. But a lot of changes going down, and we're gonna start right here with Sam's one and only LA Thieves, aka 100 Thieves. Let's start with the one Dan Ghosty. Sources, rumors. Ghosty is sticking with 100 Thieves for Black Ops 6. I think a lot of people were throwing questions around with Dan Ghosty on if he's going to leave or maybe get poached from another team, maybe try and get on another team somewhere. I mean, some people, argue that he's like, top 5 AR in the game, right? I mean, one of the best ARs. People want to see this guy go to a top team. But I think you can't really deny that LA Thieves have looked great towards the end of the year. And that Dan Ghosty has, found a good home here, at LA Thieves. So I'll be honest, it doesn't surprise me. Like, if Dan's comfortable and he likes his team and he likes the organization and they want to build around him and kind of make him that guy there, I think it's pretty good for him. I mean, I don't know his situation or kind of everything that's going on, but
if upon you, Tom. He's in California. He's got the best shit over there. Like, he didn't want to leave. Plain simple.
Yeah. No,
You saw how he played in Saudi. Like, we knew he didn't have the Papania on him. Like, he flew home.
100%. He said, I could get that good shit right there in the corner store. Why would I leave anywhere? You know what I mean? And that's what it's looking like. So it doesn't surprise me at all. I wanted to leave the floor to you guys to see if it surprised you. I really don't know if he even fielded any offers or talked about doing anything. Hopefully he got a raise. If they're looking to keep him and build around him, maybe they gave him a little raise or something. But he deserved it. He's been such a great player for these guys, and I knew LA Thieves was not going to want to lose him. Obviously, they didn't want to get rid of this guy. I know Shane's running the ship over there, and there's no way Shane would have want to give up Dan Ghosty. So, not surprised. Pat, we'll start with you. Dan Ghosty staying with Thieves. What do you think?
Unless he already knows who they're getting, this is a moronic move, in my opinion. I think this is the one guy who could have landed himself on this top 4 switch up. Looking at Toronto, possibly New York, or Cloud9 now, I guess. So unless he knows something I don't about who they're switching out, I don't think this roster should stick. I know they just got second, but it's a new game. And I don't think they're going to be in that top 4 contention. So if I was him, I would have left.
I mean, it wouldn't be up to him.
Well, I would have tried to leave. I would have tried to get Cloud9 to buy me out, or Toronto to buy me out, or whoever.
Yeah.
Would they have bought him out?
I mean, they're having to buy out someone else, right? Like, most likely, if they're, Toronto's announced they're looking for insight. I assume they're going to have to buy somebody out. So if they're going to be making that move anyway, if I'm Ghosty, I would have wanted my name in that hat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Honestly, though, you've already touched on it, so I'm not going to say that it's not a good move for him, at least as an individual. But I will say I am glad because obviously what Thieves have shown this year is that they can build something from nothing, and they look like a contender at towards the end of the year to upset some of those top 4 teams and even make that run to that finals at EWC. So for the competitive integrity of the league and like just having another like team that is like a contender and that is no slouch compared to the top 4, I'm kind of glad that he's sticking around, because I know everyone wants to see these worlds where there's just more like super teams, because it's just like cool to see like these insane like players playing together. But for the sake of the league and just like competition, I'm glad to see he sticks with this team, because that's just going to be another like team that is competitive, rather than like having all these superstar players going to like the top 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good move for Thieves. That's all it is. It's a good move for Thieves.
Ben, what are your thoughts?
So I think this is more akin to what you see like European football when a star player signs or a player that's kind of getting a lot of transfer rumors signs a new deal. I guess it's always possible that as we get later on in Rostermania, maybe someone does put together a significant offer to Thieves, and it is a conversation with Dan of what do we do here. But I think, more likely than not, if it seems like maybe he signed a new deal over there, that he's sticking. I like the move. I think there was very promising coming into the season for Thieves. We'll get to them probably later on in Rostermania, whether or not I should pack a punch. But I really realistically like going to Toronto or New York. Are they going to have the funds to buy out Thieves when like Nade's been pretty clear on what his position is? That's unlikely, I think. Even if Dana wanted to leave.
Mm-hmm. Sam, I mean, these are your boys, Sam. These are your boys.
Need a "These are your boys" shirt.
We do. We do need to get a shirt. By the way, those jerseys are fire. Those white and gold jerseys are heat.
White alternates are nice.
Those are clean.
From Real Madrid, 100 Thieves.
I'm kind of in Pat's boat. I wouldn't call it moronic, but I think that Dan definitely needed some sort of assurances, because I think he definitely had a pathway to being in the mix for that top 4 roster spot. So I think that Dan got some sort of clearance on like a roster decision or a contract or something to incentivize him to stay, because I think he was the best player outside of the top 4, and I think it was a pretty much no-brainer for him to try to move up. And the fact that allegedly he re-signed as quickly as he did makes me think that there was just something on the table that LAT offered him that he deemed valuable enough to stay. So
he did re-sign something. He did re-sign something new.
I'm going off of whatever you pulled up on stream.
Okay.
Let me clarify. What I call moronic was being the first one to make a move. Like, he signed instantly. Like, before any rosters, he came out the same day that the people were getting dropped and saying he's
we don't know if he signed or not.
Yeah, theoretically we don't know. Because realistically, like, if you guys were Dan Ghosty in his scenario,
I'm not signing.
If you have, I wouldn't sign either. I mean, you're young, you're a superstar player. Right, if you're a free agent at the end of the year, I mean, being a free agent at the end of the year is a very valuable thing, especially if you're a good player and you're a good player.
I mean, Dan is the player that these teams should be going after. So I don't know if he signed. This isn't me like trolling for the show. I genuinely don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
But if I were him, I would not sign anything. I would definitely be like more of a verbal commitment than anything. Because if Toronto or C9 come knocking, like Pat said, like, if I'm here to try to win, then those teams will be better options, because like I could build a competitive roster on LAT if I'm Dan, but winning tournaments and being on a Sunday consistently and in finals consistently, your odds are obviously going to be better on teams like Toronto or New York versus on LAT.
And even if you can't get on their team, you can negotiate more pay, because you got
that's what I'm saying. Like the incentives of a verbal commitment versus, it could be, maybe it's a roster thing, maybe it's whatever. Maybe they're spending more money this year and he has more maneuverability with all the free agents, or a contract and renegotiation or something.
I mean, regardless, it's probably contractual. Dan's a smart guy. He probably takes into these things into account. And if I were him, I think he's at the point in his career where like he's already made a huge impact on the last 2 teams he's been on the last 2 seasons, and he kind of just obviously, ego aside, he probably knows how good of a player he is, and all these other teams recognize it. He should really start thinking about his legacy moving forward and trying to achieve greatness in a sense, because he's definitely in a position where he's going to be coveted, whether it's this year or next year or whatever the hell he comes up as a free agent. But I mean, good for him because he basically, I mean, if you guys know Dan, his story, like whenever he got picked up on Optic and people kind of like interviewed him and stuff like that, he comes from like humble beginnings and a lot of struggle. So I'm glad that he's kind of like made his name for himself and he's a staple here. That being said, though, like obviously this Thieves team, regardless of how they felt at the end of the year with how well they performed, this team I still think has paths for an upgrade to kind of like make their consistency factor a little bit better. Looking at Kremp, looking at Nasty, those are definitely the two main things. I think Joe was really good, super impactful. That guy's ceiling is fucking insane.
Yeah, Jodeci is great.
That guy was making plays. That being said, though, Nasty and Kremp both stepped it up at the end of the year. Nasty at EWC was gross. Like, I think, like, for whatever reason, if these guys would have won, like, it was definitely a conversation between him or Joe for MVP at that tournament for the Thieves side. And then Kremp in their S&Ds, man, like, that guy was the reason they beat Toronto, like, in that map 5. So I'm curious what these guys have to do, because regardless of how they performed at the end of the year, they have some interesting decisions to make and conversations to be had.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All I'm saying is there's that famous Michael Corleone quote from The Godfather Part 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Like, I think there's some good work from Thieves on the org side to get Dan committed here early, but I won't be surprised there's more twists and turns here if we start to see more pressure from a New York or Toronto if they identify Dan as the guy they want, and what Thieves would do in that situation. Are they going to hold their guns? They have an agreement with Dan, or are they going to come with a big enough offer that Thieves have to think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of leads us to our next conversation, because that's what we were talking about, right? Like, if Dan were to leave, where would he go? And one of those teams potentially could be the Toronto Ultra, because we have Jamie Insight here. He is he's a free agent. He's a restricted free agent. I have been allowed to explore all my options and will be a restricted free agent for the 2025 season. Hit the DMs or email me.
I hate that term so much, bro.
What?
Yeah, because he's not a restricted. Okay, I do this once a Rostermania. Technically, Jamie is not a restricted free agent. He's contracted, right? In professional sports, an RFA is someone that's not contracted with a team, but their original team or the team that traded for them has their contract rights. And usually what that means is that if another team offers a contract, they have an opportunity to match. In this situation, it's more so that Jamie's been told, hey, like, if there is another situation you want to get to, find out there's interest and we'll talk to them and figure it out with you, because at the moment you're not in our plans. That's not really what like RFA is.
I mean, I thought
restricted as a free agent. That sounds like it to me.
I don't know. It's not technically what the term means, but if we're this we're rolling with, so be it.
Well, he's under contract.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's not a free agent. That's why I don't, from a technical perspective, I hate the term.
It just means he's not going to walk away. Like, they have
He
to
can't.
talk business.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he can't.
they're gonna accommodate him wherever he wants to go. It's just more so that, like, you're not on our plans, but you're also not free. Like, let's get this straight.
Well, they're trying to get money for him. I mean, Toronto
Yeah.
clearly wants to make changes, but they want to get money for him. And I just don't know. Honestly, realistically, right? If you were going to buy out Insight, if you were an organization, what would you pay? I mean, that's obviously, depending on the market and shit like that. But
$0. I would wait Toronto out, and I highly doubt Toronto's just going to keep paying this guy his starter salary while he's not doing anything for them. So I would just wait it out.
yeah, you could just wait it
They'll
out.
eventually let him go.
I think if Jamie found a home and he went and talked to them and was like, hey, I really want to go here. Let's make it work. I think they'll make it work. And that's usually how it goes. But where do you guys see him going? Insight. Where do you guys see this going? And who do you guys think Toronto is going to pick up? I mean, Dan Ghosty was on that list for me, at least, but I don't see that happening. And Abuza, obviously, Abuza's been talked about a lot. I could definitely see Abuza going over to this team and playing in Toronto. I don't know what you guys feel about it.
Well, apparently his contract isn't. He's like still with Seattle, right? Like, he's not free to do what we wanted, which was the original assumption, right? That's pretty much all I know.
It seems like he's still contracted, but
yeah.
I mean, from my POV, I think Abuza would be a decent replacement for Jamie. If they're kind of take away from the season is our teamwork was good. S&D was super up and down, and when we were on, we were great. We were off in search, we were off, and we want to try and get more pace to match the aggression of Optic, to match the aggression of FaZe, match the aggression of New York. Then Abuza would kind of check that box from my POV.
My thing is, though, the interesting thing about Toronto is, like, with Insight on their team, like, Insight's always been like a S&D guy, like a S&D superstar, and I feel like that was like their Achilles heel for the most of the year. It's just not being able to close out S&Ds or not being super consistent outside of like one major stint. So, like regardless of if they feel like they need more pace, they've been pretty damn good at respawn the entire year. They were one of the best hardpoint teams at certain points in the year. So like their upgrade path is kind of not clear because yeah, you can say they need more pace, sure, but at the end of the day, like they need to get better at search. Players like Scrap, who is their superstar, that guy's unreplaceable. He didn't perform in Search and Destroy either. So I'm curious what this team is going to do. But on the Insight front, like we've talked about Insight being the same player for the last couple years, kind of just being comfortable in his role within his team. I'm interested to see what this guy is going to be able to do when he gets on either a weaker roster or maybe even something of the same caliber with a different dynamic, because he's going to probably have to switch up his play style a lot. And like he can end up being like, he could be like almost like Cammy in the sense where like he gets off this roster and he might like end up like slowly falling out because of his performance, or he could turn it around and become an even better player individually. So I'm curious what's going to happen with this guy, because I think this guy, he's a smart dude. He's been a smart guy since he got in the league, but I think he hasn't really had the opportunity to kind of display how talented he can be because of the people around him, not necessarily because he can't. So I'm curious to see what this guy does, man. It's going to be a wild one.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I actually think Insight's a good player. I don't know if it was the role they had him on this team or what. I just felt like sometimes you just need to get in the mix more and just you can get activated more. Just, I don't know really what it was, but clearly Toronto is making changes here. And I don't know if Jamie's the only one. Is Jamie the only one they're changing here? Has there been any rumors with anybody else? With any of the sub players, or is it just Jamie? I think the one guy that seems safe to me on this team is Scrap. And then the others, I mean, depending on what's available, what happens, I think is kind of where we might see some changes.
I don't think you make a single change other than Jamie.
That's the problem, though, Tom. It's like we even talked about this before on the reverse sweep.
Can't let you get Paco, which is unrealistic.
Yeah, the availability of players that are potential upgrades are just not there. They just aren't going to be there unless you take a massive risk and hope that like you bring in somebody that is like underrated, for example, like maybe like Gwyn, for example, and hope he just turns into a star on a better team. So I don't think this team's going to make any moves. And I think even though Envoy has ups and downs and Kleenex did, I think they just bring far too much of an upside to give up to another team.
Yeah, I mean, I think realistically, like looking back at it, it's going to be hard to replace like some of those guys in Toronto. Like those are good players, obviously. So you're not going to want to, like, it would have to be a pretty big risk, right, Chris? If you're dipping into challengers or something, like at that point, it's like pretty big risk there. Pat, you have anything to say on Toronto? I mean, these are your guys. You had these guys as the 22 champions, the 23 champions, the 24 champions. I mean, you had these guys as the champions at the end of each year, and it just hasn't happened. So what do these guys need to do to be 2025 world champs here, Pat?
To be clear, I was actually watching back my reverse sweep episode last year when I said they'd be the 2024 champions. I did say they're going to get Octane and Envoy, and then they're going to be the 2024 world champions. But obviously we know Octane. Throw a
fucking wrench in your plan.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Octane
Sam.
the league. Anyway, I mean, look,
Sorry,
they just need someone with some pace, some consistency, and I think they'll be fine. I don't think they make a change. I think you keep both Kleenex and Envoy, and you just do this 1-for-1 swap. I would have liked Ghosty here. I mean, I'd take a Booza, but I would have liked Ghosty here. I don't really see any other big moves they can make outside of those two, at least right now. I absolutely do not think they dip into challengers. I think that's insane.
Yeah, dipping into challengers was crazy.
I think there's a world where they just keep the team, even with Jamie tweeting this.
The whole Toronto
They can't
now.
find someone.
I don't think so. I mean, the way that they play.
Because I feel like
this
their
year,
options on AR are not great.
If they can't get a Booza,
If they can't get like
or
1-2,
Ghosty,
at that point, is there a world in which they just stay?
I mean, it's just a risk factor. I think you could get a Booza. I think even like Attach could be a good fit here. And if you want to take risks, because you were talking about how like there are players that maybe they make substitutes out for submachine guns in the future. I think the only two SMGs that are risky enough and like have a potential upside to make are Joe Deceives, if they could have got him for whatever reason, or who's the other one that was in my head? It was Joe. I'm having a fucking blank moment here. But there was two SMGs I was looking at, Joe being one of them. If they tried to, Gwyn to take a risk. Outside of that, like AR wise, Attach, Abuza, Ghosty if they could have got him, and then maybe if you're trying to get fucking really crazy, Slasher, but Slasher has kind of been away for a while, so I don't really know how people value his stock going forward, because Slasher fits that like Jamie role to an extent. And as much as you know he's been away, S&D with Slasher could be a good
Play for
dynamic
picks.
there. Exactly.
Austin would be interesting on this team.
It could be. You
I'm
never
not
know.
going to push a narrative, but it's
Yeah,
an
I'm not
interesting
either.
thought.
Exactly. If my thing is, if Slasher plays like good Slasher on this team, like that would be a good fit.
I mean, he
And
would be
then-
extremely motivated with this team. I feel like
Yeah.
if Slasher were to get on this team, he hasn't had a team like this in probably a while.
Yeah, and then attach and search is usually pretty good too. And then Abuza, he's more on the he leans more into the respawn perspective. But he's also super young, and this would be his like first big shot that he would have. So
Oh
that'd
no,
be
I mean, yeah,
crazy as
he was on FaZe. Yeah, no, he was on FaZe. That kind of was a faded take because he was on FaZe. I was thinking about who was it? Was that Boston? What team was he on?
Boston.
he was on Boston.
Getting farmed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, no, he was on FaZe, bro. Damn, Jesus Christ. Almost
I
forgot
just don't
about
want them
that.
to
Too much
overcomplicate
papaya.
this. I think this is like a just clear cut 1-for-1. Try
I
to
need
get
a
an
rep.
upgrade. I think their sub duo is fine. I think Scrap's obviously one of the best players, if not the best in the league. So I think that the Jamie thing is just try to find a better AR and keep it moving. I don't think that their sub duo needs to be addressed at all, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they just got to find consistency, because I think Scrap's always been consistent, and I kind of understand that Jamie replaced him, but Envoy and Toby kind of switched off, having parts of the year where they really struggled after they all kind of clicked in Major 1, and if they want to beat some of these better teams, win multiple events, because they still won an event this year, we want to tip that. They're getting everybody firing all cylinders, so whatever they need to do internally to adjust that is.
They
the
got to
key
get
thing to
better at
do.
search, bro. Like I'm gonna be real. This team is not the search roster. They need to get better at search. They need to bring in somebody that is gonna help them in that capacity. Because, bro, I'm sorry, with Kleenex and Scrap on your team, that dynamic in respawn, like you are going to find wins on literally every single team in the league. Like Scrap
Agreed.
alone is literally a fucking walking nuke.
I mean, yeah,
And then
people are saying
Envoy-
Illy. People are saying
On-
Illy. I mean, Illy would be a great shout. I just don't know what's
Yeah.
going on with Illy. I mean, I even
Even-
saw Bruce. I saw Dashy giving credit to Italy too in some interview. He was doing an interview. He's talking about how he thinks Illy's probably like one of the best SD players to ever play, like that game mode in particular. So if you want to elevate in that game mode, Illy would be
roster that he
perfect.
goes to, bro. When was the last time he played a full season? Regardless of if it's the same issue or
It's
not, he's had
been-
multiple different things to take him out of a year.
Yeah,
So
it's a
are you willing
sketchy.
to
It's
take
a
the
sketchy
chance?
pickup. It's just a sketchy pickup. Unless you're talking to him, unless people are like actively talking to him. But that's what happened the first time, was it not? Like he was talking to people behind the scenes. It was quiet. Nobody knew what the fuck he was doing, and then boom, he pops up on another team, and then that didn't last. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Illy. And the formal thing, people were saying formal. I just, based on Seth's reaction, just on stream and stuff, I don't think formal's coming back. I mean, like even just like seeing Scum talk about it, like Scum thinks it's hilarious that people are talking about it. So I'm just getting the vibe that Matt's probably not coming back.
There's no way in hell though, if Formal actually wants to play, he doesn't play. Like if he wants to play, he'll make it happen regardless. If he's kind of on the fence, then yeah, he'll probably stick to doing what he does, or just do
At that
content.
point, he'd probably get loaned out from Optic. I mean, unless he's playing for Optic, which I don't see Optic making any changes. I don't think they're going to change or do anything there.
That would be fucking insane.
If they
There's-
change, that would be crazy.
There's
That'd be
no
nuts.
way in hell that with the relationship that Matt has with Optic, that if he truly wants to play and he has an offer that he wants to go to, they will hold him. Like there's no way they do that to Matt if that's truly what he desires. And I'm sure whether Formal comes back or doesn't, if he retires, he'll be right back on in that green wall at some capacity regardless.
Yeah. Anybody else got any final thoughts on Toronto Ultra, just kind of as a squad, or any roster changes that they're doing over there? Go ahead, Ben.
I think I'm waiting for Adamadamu or someone over there to really like comment publicly on what they want to do with this team. To your point, like all of our point here, we expect kind of a one-person change. But Adam's been really quiet about this team while he's been talking about some of their other teams. So I'm really curious as we get into next week, really the meat of Rostermania, what we expect kind of around the beta, what they're going to do here. And I'm sure we'll talk about it on the next episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to be getting more updates, and we'll obviously be doing more shows. This is kind of just everything that is. I mean, I'm expecting way more announcements, in the near future. Actually, it depends. I don't know how fast teams are moving on some of this stuff, but we'll see kind of how, like, as sources kind of come out and talk about some of this stuff. I feel like things always get leaked pretty early, so we'll see. But one big one today, this one made me really happy to see, was the one and only MackMelts Mac
It's your
tweets
son.
out today. It's my son right there, my godson, free agent for Black Ops 6, itching to compete again. Hit me up. Listen, I will go on and talk highly about Mac. I mean, I think Mac's a great player. I think one thing about Mac that I love is his unselfishness, and he'll do whatever you got to do to get that W. I think Mac makes other people around him better. And I saw that playing with the guy. I mean, I that's why we picked him up when I was on that New York team with the New York Subliners, and he was great. And even not having him in a league, I mean, I've missed him. I've been wanting to see Mac play. So just seeing him tweet and talking about Black Ops 6 and wanting to come back, I mean, I would 100% be looking at Mac if I were some of these teams, just based on what I've seen that guy do. So I don't know if you guys agree with me, disagree with me. I know some people have critiqued Mac in the past. I'm not saying he's been perfect, but I definitely think Mac has a ceiling that can help out a lot of teams, especially some of those mid-pack teams.
He'll be on a mid tier to bottom tier.
Yeah, that's where I
team
expect him to.
off the rip. Just while he finds his feet. I could see him joining Seattle. I could see him being on one of the rebuilds for all these new teams that are coming in. I think he'll find it. He'll find a place. If he doesn't, I'm sure he'll play challengers and he'll probably get called up at some point because that guy was gross when he did play in challengers off the rip. He pretty much, I think he got second at his first like major land in challengers and then immediately got picked up to New York. So I mean that guy has insane ceiling. We haven't seen him like play since the Seattle.
Yeah, we haven't seen him, so that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and we know how like Lamar liked to run his ship and stuff like that. And there was the clear quote unquote stars on that team with Sib and Pred, and Mac took that backseat of playing, more of like a support role. But I'm curious to see where he lands and how he's gonna, come and play in the new season. Because if he's more on like a team that he's built around, I can see him playing really well, like individually.
Yeah, Pat, I wanted to see what you thought about this. MackMelts coming back. Does this intrigue you at all, Pat, or not really?
Not really. Chris, you expect him on a bottom tier team. I think he starts in challengers. I don't doubt that he has the talent to be on a bottom tier team, but I mean, like, you guys know how this works. Like, you're gone for a whole year, and I assume he was like ghost. Like, unless he's been talking, making connections, it's gonna be kind of hard to get back into an instant pickup unless a coach just blesses him. Like, if someone's just like, oh yeah, let's pick the guy up. I know. Yeah, I expect him to start in challengers. It'd be surprising to me if he got on a bottom tier team right away, but I expect him to probably end up there by the middle of the year, end of the year.
Mm-hmm. All right, Duarte, what do you think? We'll go down the list.
Yeah, I mean, I already said it. He pretty much should either end up on like the bottom teams or probably start in challengers. The interesting thing about Mac is he can run both roles. He ran flex before, and he also ran sub. So he'll find himself at a point if he plays like, the Mac we know. You were very high on him. I was always very high on him as well. So I'm excited to see him back because I know that he was at a point where he could have been like after MW 2019, he could have potentially been on like a top 4 team. Like he was on your New York team before he retired, and he was fucking insane.
He was insane. He was insane on our New York team.
And then he kind of started to fall off a little bit in Cold War and Vanguard.
He played well in Vanguard, I would say.
Yeah, but he could have he played he played that more of a support role, right? Like Pred was that green light player on that team, but on your team back in MW 2019, Mac was the green light.
I gave him the green light. I told him, I said, bro, do whatever you want.
Flying. Exactly.
I just don't want to see him
let him play
and be that like second sub like support role because I just don't think it fits him very well. Like put him in a free role where he can slay, push out cuts. Yeah, especially if his AR in his hand, he's gonna have some kind of objective responsibility sometimes to sow kill times and play a little bit slower. But I think putting him in a weird gap fill role is just going to rid the same issues at Seattle. I think it'll burn him out. Like I would think whatever team, put him in the right role and this guy can drop you 1-2s and win you some events.
I don't really remember his placements clearly, but I'm just reading chat, just trying to get the reaction. He got 3rd at Vanguard champs and 4th at MW2 champs. Is that true? I don't remember his placements at all. But yeah, like even then, right. Like that's insane. So yeah, Mac has again high ceiling. So I wouldn't be surprised, especially if he does decide to run a sub again for a team to take a risk on him just because of his prior accolades.
What do you think, Sam? What do you think about MackMelts tweeting for a free agent?
I mean, I like the fact that his stint on Seattle didn't absolutely torch his stock because they had him just in the fucking blender trying to gap fill with Sib and Pred, and those 2 titles was definitely not the easiest thing in the world. So the stats definitely took a hit. But his arrow always went the right way, and I think that he has a good game IQ. So I think that that's definitely something that he can pick up the game relatively quickly again, because obviously he has to essentially restart. And I do agree with what Ben said. I don't want to see him on that role again. I think I've seen the 2 different iterations of him as a player coming through challengers and playing on Tom's team versus when he was gap filling, trying to help, superstars flourish. And I think that he has an opportunity to do both, which is good because it allows you to fill a lot more roster spots if you were a one-dimensional player. So now that he's trying to come back into the league, and what Pat said, he's like not quite sure if he maintained connections or not, or what type of roster spot he's going to fill. Being versatile is nice. So, I mean, I kind of agree with Pat as well. I don't think that he's going to be on a team instantly. I think he'll probably just farm challengers for a little bit and then be maybe on that first or second wave of roster changes come Major 1, Major 2 cycle.
Also, for those guys that don't remember him quite well in chat, and just for viewers or listeners, he's young. He turned 18 MW 2019, so he's probably, around like 20 years old now, 2021. So, this guy still has a long career ahead of him if he decides to play, and he actually plays up to his standards. It's not like he's like a super heavily storied player that's been around forever where people are just like taking chances on recycled players. Like, no, he's been around. He's achieved results on multiple different roles and multiple different rosters. So yeah, he's a youngin. He's got a lot to
just say he
not
turned
21, not 21. He's like
20,
sorry, he's 20. He should be 21, 22.
20 now.
21, 22. That's where he's at right now. I don't remember his birthday. Sorry, but he's still young. Guy. My
2
point.
years and 5.
21, 22.
Yeah, he's just got to come back, obviously kind of get back up to speed and be able to play the way he was playing before he dipped, after Modern Warfare 2. But I think we'll probably hear rumors if he does end up on a CDL team. We'll probably hear rumors on him probably way after the beta when those bottom teams are kind of forming. If not, I could see him on a top challengers team. And we'll probably talk about Falcons later, but they're building kind of a mix in a challengers team. He's a potentially interesting prospect they should pick up and kind of hedge against sort of their current roster they're going to run.
Yep. Any other final thoughts on Mac? All right, let's move on. I want to move on to the Minnesota ROKKR. These guys have made some questionable roster decisions over the last couple years, and there's another one here
First
today.
right one.
Slay, we'll let you kick things off. Right. They got rid of Lamar. Goodbye to the Iceman. Looked like accuracy is going to be either looking for a new team or looking to do something else. I'm not sure what Lamar's plans are right now. But, Pat, we'll start with you.
I mean, let's not pretend, guys. We've been saying Lamar should get dropped for like a year and a half now. And he has like one event where people are like, oh, Lamar's good. But it's like, we know the average here. So, yeah, I mean, this is a long time coming, in my opinion. So I'm less concerned about the moves that they're going to make dropping their players. I'm more concerned about who they're going to pick up, right? Like, that's the problem with this Minnesota team. They make questionable pickups. And so I'm curious to see what those pickups are this time. But I think dropping multiple people on this roster is the right move.
I think Cobra's the rumor team, which makes sense because Cobra's French, Linz is French, right? They played together as well on the Awaba Bobs and Challengers. It was the Awaba Bobs, right? That's who they played?
It was Awaba Bobs. It was Cobra, Linz, Abuza.
Yeah, they were good, too. The Awaba Bobs, they were good. Awaba Bobs were a good team.
They're fourth.
It's a crazy fucking team name.
Crazy,
also, I saw an Insights tweet that he's using Yahoo, bro. You might need to change that Insight. Yahoo? I don't know about that, man. You guys ever have you guys ever seen a Yahoo email? Last time I saw that was in fucking 1962. You know what I mean? I haven't seen a Yahoo email in fucking forever.
Also, you guys are saying Cobra's rumored on this team, but Cobra could also go to Seattle. Cobra was an AR player, and they will be needing another AR player if Abuza is getting poached off this team.
If he goes to Seattle,
Kason still uses Yahoo? Oh, hell no.
Hell no, We're going to have a conversation with Kason after the show.
Yeah.
I think the Cobra news is that apparently they've been trying to court him since before champs. So obviously they've been one of the first teams to kind of make their pitch to him. Obviously for Cobra, I hope he's kind of making a smart play here, which is to not commit too early to them, see what other teams come in, kind of use the interest. And I know he didn't have the best of EWCs, but I don't think it hurt his stock too much to try and get the right kind of compensation. Yeah, I mean, I know his team didn't play that well. He didn't have any like takeover moments, but I still think he's a solid player. To kind of generate some other leads, but I won't be surprised. Obviously,
at the end of the day, the only thing that the Gentlemate showed is that they can get kills. That team,
hopping fucking hills. Yeah, I don't know about that.
They get some kills. That being said, for the Minnesota team, I think the only person that is on this team right now is Linz, right? Like I think because Gunless obviously didn't play at EWC and Standy was let go, and then Estro and Diamond Khan, who both went to EWC, are obviously free agents as well. So it's just Linz, right?
Are they free agents?
I'm pretty sure Diamond tweeted that he was a free agent. I could be wrong. I can't remember.
I'm gonna check right now.
Yeah, go check because I'm assuming they were not on that team long term. It was just EWC, just like
Connor has not tweeted anything about being a free agent.
Okay, so he might also still be on there. Never mind. But if I were a betting man, I'd say the only person that's safe on this team right now is Linz. But Estriel is also a pretty good option if a team's looking for a sub because he showed that he could be pretty good too.
I can see Linz and Cobra kind of talking amongst. I can see Cobra being the first piece. They bring him in, boom. They swap him out with Lamar, and then Linz and Cobra start talking, and then that's where that's kind of where they build around.
Yeah.
Estriel I felt like Estriel showed some promise. I think it just ultimately depends who they can get, but I mean Estriel, at least with Estriel, he's not afraid to get aggressive and try and make a play. It's one thing I like about him. But Ben, what do you think about the whole situation with the Minnesota ROKKR? Who do you think they're gonna get? What do you think is going on here? Do you agree with the decision? I mean, for the most part, I agree with the decision. I definitely think these changes were needed. What do you think, Benjay?
No one doubts Lamar's game knowledge and ability to develop players. I think everybody here can kind of vouch for that. I think his individual performance is just too inconsistent now to really hold down a spot on a team like ROKKR that wants to have kind of bigger ambitions. Yeah, you can get kind of one replacing a year out of Lamar, but there's a bunch of other events, and oftentimes, his form kind of fluctuates. So I'm not surprised that he's stepping aside. I'm curious what he wants to do going forward. I think the key thing is if they're going for the Cobra Linz duo is like they got to develop into good CDL players and kind of keep going up and up because they could kind of end up like some of the sort of average players, sub players you see in the league that kind of don't really become that next Simper or BZ. I think Lynn showed a lot of promise in the beginning of the year, but I don't think he played amazing the back end of this year. And some of that could just be the rookie wall, getting to North America, kind of getting used to playing here. But season 2 needs to be a little bit better for Linz, and hopefully if he brings in a duo Cobra, they can kind of do it together.
I can't believe you just compared anyone to Simper or BZ. But,
well, I'm doing that to make the point of it's like
Linz, just come in and be two of the greatest players of all time.
You get my point though. Like Linz could come in and become the next Nero, right? Like you're a good serviceable sub player. You have your
the
moments.
Next Nero.
But you get. No, do you understand what?
What do
I'm
you
trying to
mean
say,
by that?
Bro, what I'm trying to say is, before you giggle off into fucking oblivion here, is like I think Linz had a great start to the season, but he tailed off. We all feel and agree with that, correct?
Agreed.
So is the level that Linz is at right now, is that his normal level? Is he just, like all players, going to hit a vein of form and tap into it? Or is he going to be the player who was at the beginning of the year where he's making impact plays, winning ROKKR individual series?
So you're suggesting that he overperformed Major 1 and that where he is right now is like...
We don't know because it was his first year in the league. That's the big question for the second year. What kind of player is he going to be?
I just need you to rephrase.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. It's just like I want to see him become, bigger and better and, compete for that top level, or is he just going to kind of even out to this level? And you're just kind of a replacement level sub player in the league, and you hold down a spot. And that's it.
I don't know if it's fair to judge Linz though too. I mean, it's a team game at the end of the day too. And that can affect the player individually. Like if teams aren't seeing eye to eye, or players just aren't seeing eye to eye, and people can't get on the same page, or things are not clicking in game. When you find a team that everybody's clicking, everybody's working well with each other, I mean, that's going to elevate everybody, right? Like, including somebody like Linz. Like, if he gets good players around him and people that he's comfortable with, which I think Cobra could be somebody that he will be comfortable with, I mean, I can see him bringing that consistency, right, Ben, that you're trying to see, right? Like, instead of, like, these up and downs, which, I mean, we saw that with Nero, too, but with Linz especially. Like, I think when you watch Linz, I mean, even just by the eye test, I mean, clearly mechanically, he's a very good player. So I just think, getting the right players around him, like, it's important, man. Like, who you pair personality wise, just pairing play styles with the right people, it goes a long way for a lot of these players,
There's only one player that had to do what Linz basically did, right? Coming into the CDL, having to basically learn English, like you brush up on that, and also be a submachine gun player. And it was Hydra, but Hydra also probably started a little bit higher up on the ladder in terms of his pickups and his road to where he is now. So, I don't think it's fair that we judge like Linz too heavily upon his like recent performances, because I think that guy still has a high ceiling, and until he gets a roster that is probably a little bit more fair, then we'll know for sure.
I don't know. All I'll say is this: is like I want to be critical about Linz because he had a great start to the season, but especially in Hardpoint, I felt like at almost every event after the first event, he played poorly in that game mode. Watching his error on the map, I felt like he was causing a lot of chaos. Wasn't really recognizing spawns and kind of throwing his life away a lot, and it put their team in a tough position because they had a lot of other chemistry issues around that. Obviously, we discussed kind of Lamar's sort of slaying level. I think he's got to kind of continue to develop as a player and build that player awareness because there's no question about his gunny, but they don't get to so far in the CDL.
Anybody got any other thoughts on the Minnesota ROKKR?
The next Nero is insane. I'm sorry.
I get what he was trying to say. He just had to rephrase. That's all.
Yeah, I didn't phrase it correctly, but you guys got my point. So, W.
All right, let's move on to the next team, the Carolina Royal Ravens. They're swapping some people around. They're moving some things over there too. We got some tweets. We got one from TJ, unrestricted free agent for the 2025 CDL season. He said they hit him up. I know Beans also came out with a tweet, and Tyler Fellow. So all three of them came out with a tweet, except for the only one, which was Gwyn. Now, in my opinion, just from the outside looking in, they gave Gwyn the keys. They said, Gwyn, we're going to build around you. You're the best player on the team. We're going to give you the keys. You can blow it up if you want to. You can keep them if you want to. What do you want to do with the team? And it looks like Gwyn blew it up. Looks like he hit the red button. And he's looking to make changes here. I mean, I'm guessing he's probably talking to the coaching staff and trying to figure out what he wants to do. But what do you guys think is happening with this team? What do you think Gwyn's doing here? I mean, what do you guys think is happening here? I mean, what do you?
I have no idea.
Neither do I.
We
I have
should
no
ask
fucking
Pat
clue.
first. We should ask Pat first, Mr. Gwyn guy. What do you think Gwyn should do?
I think he should have find a time machine, go back in time, and listen to me a year ago and make the win guys. I think that's what he should do.
Well, now that he can't do that, what should he do?
Try and get the fuck off this org. That should have been the first step. He should have been the one saying, "I want out. You can keep guys." I just don't expect. I mean, there's also rumors that this Carolina team isn't even going to be the team.
We'll get to that later.
So I don't know. It's a weird situation. I don't think he's going to get anybody good enough, honestly, to matter. Kind of my opinion.
I honestly think I don't think Gwyn had anything to do with him dropping his entire team. I think the org is in limbo, and potentially they're at a point where Gwyn is their only like valuable piece. They feel like, and so regardless of what this org decides to do, whether it's completely pull out and sell to another organization, which there are rumors of, or stick it out, they can always re-sign these guys if they want to later down the line. If you're an organization like Carolina that's probably trying to save money, like most of these bottom tier teams do.
The problem is they're restricted free agents, which means their contracts didn't get cut. Like they're still getting paid.
Not all of them are. TJ's unrestricted. He said unrestricted, right? And then
Yeah.
But like you might as well do the same treatment for everyone.
Yeah,
TJ's
they should.
Contract was probably just
They
up.
probably should. But point is, I think this is going to be a roster that unless Gwyn leaves to go join a better team and he gets an offer and gets pulled, this is going to be one of those organizations that will not have a roster until like closer to Rostermania ending. Like the rest of the bottom tier teams probably will.
I mean, we could get into the organization talk. So what's going on? What's the rumors right now with the org? There's rumors of what? Gen G coming in, TSM coming in. For those of you that don't know, apparently there's a lot of teams looking to get out of the CDL.
Can I talk on this one real quick?
Yeah, you can talk on this one. Go ahead.
So I saw this, and this obviously kind of came out whilst I was mid-travel. So I messaged a bunch of people and talked to a bunch of people earlier this week. I don't want to throw like too much cold water on this, but virtually everybody I talked to was surprised, if you want to pull the tweet, the way that it was phrased, and almost that it felt like it was. It's in the DM.
Absolutely.
It's the one from Hope.
Oh yeah, I got it. I have it.
They were surprised at the way it's phrased because everybody I talked to is like, these orgs, the ones that were named right, Carolina, LAG, or teams that are definitely always kind of talking to potential suitors about getting out and divestment or kind of doing a joint venture or any other kind of commercial opportunities. But nobody I talked to felt like either of these teams were kind of imminently getting out. Obviously, people caution me that stuff can always change. Things could always accelerate as things do happen in esports. But I think this like kind of fascination right now that people are thinking that like Carolina especially won't be in next year. I think we're going to need to wait for some more reputable sources. Not to diss on my guy Hope, who definitely leaks a lot of like solid, usually correct information about Call of Duty games. More kind of business journal, more like trade people that actually kind of source this before we assume these orgs are getting out.
I mean,
So it's not exactly like we think it is.
I mean,
with them
there's-
just
I
100% leaving.
got just to get to the point of it, like these teams are always talking to people, but nothing from the people I've talked to, nothing seems imminent for those two organizations as far as a sale.
There's no way that LAG like are still going to be here next year. Like that is one.
There's
that
no
is,
way.
like,
There's no way
there
they're
is-
here.
Like there is a 99.9% chance that this organization is not or is in Call of Duty like
So-
next year.
What I could see for LAG is that if they can't come to an agreement to sell the spot, I could definitely see them coming to an agreement for someone to operate the spot, therefore on their behalf, and they still own the asset. That makes sense. Kind of like what Florida Mutineers is doing right now. Like they're still technically in, but
I doubt that
Misfits.
happens. I doubt that happens because that's what happened when they first got into the Overwatch League, and
Correct.
it resulted in a big lawsuit where
Correct.
Crunky had to pay out the Sentinel CEO quite a bit of money. So I doubt that happens again. I really don't think they're gonna gamble that again.
That is for certain, at least with LAG.
I would almost bet that they're gonna try and sell the spot, and if they can't sell it, they'll just give it away. I don't think they want to be in at all.
I mean,
they've shown us zero promise or
didn't
zero
even-
ambition to want to do anything in the
They didn't even
CDL.
go
so.
to an event where it was everything paid for. Like
they didn't. They
this
didn't. They were paying for their own events.
No,
I'm
EWC.
saying
No, he's talking about
How-
EWC.
Oh,
bro, this org
like, holy
doesn't
shit.
care about esports. They're done. Like they feel they got burned and they're out. It's
Well,
pretty clear.
I talked about the EWC thing. There's some other stuff going on in the background there, but
Conflict of interest, bro.
I agree with you guys. Like even for what I said, like I still feel like the LAG thing will come to a head probably closer to game launch, and someone will take over that spot, or maybe they come to an agreement where they operate the spot this year, and then ownership transfers
way
like
before
after
then.
the season. Because to your point, like them kind of the way they operated this year with sort of minimal effort is just not particularly good for the scene, and just doesn't really benefit the audience. And it seems like they've been kind of telegraphing that for a while.
I mean, I just hope that it's not what you said and they come in last second, because whoever's coming in obviously has some sort of ambition to join the CDL, and they're going to get put with an absolute dog shit roster with zero opportunity to field players or understand like how to navigate Rostermania. They're just going to get the best of the rest, and those teams always suck. Well, not always, I should say 90% of the time suck. So I hope that there's some sort of like early
Yeah.
discussion at this point for whoever is interested, even if it's not public, to just have the foresight to be like, look, we don't want to get fucked in September when we have zero players.
And to
So-
talk more about the undercurrent of why I think a lot of orgs, and I know Hope mentions TSM, some of the chats are like SSG, a lot of these organizations see that getting a CDL team is a good path to the Club World Championship, the Club Championship for Esports World Cup, because there's no buy-in anymore. You could operate that spot cheaply and get an opportunity to place top 6 or top 8 and get a lot of points for that club championship, which pays out millions for these orgs. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these organizations circle on top of sort of all of the undercurrent of conversations we've heard in the last couple of years, that they're starting to really figure out what MTX looks like for the CDL and a revenue path via in-game items.
That's
What
a completely different conversation. But like, bro, I've said it. The EWC's like impact when it comes to like esports or even just our little COD scene is going to be massive for like organizations looking to like get points to like win that thing.
oh yeah.
How
That's
much
why
is
a
it
lot of these teams
for
are
the
interested.
org
I'm
that
pretty
wins?
sure it was like 7 billion or some shit. I'm pretty sure. What was it, Ben? You probably know, but I think like Falcons tweet out that they, or like I saw a post that Falcons won like 7
Yeah,
mil
they
or some
did.
shit
It was
for
7
winning.
million. It was 7
That's
million.
a fucking
7
lot of
million is a
money,
lot
bro.
of money,
in the
bro.
mirror, just like cheering, popping champagne. It's just himself putting the medal on. Like, that's all it was.
I mean, they didn't win anything though. It just went back to the exact
Yes,
people who were
exactly.
giving out the money, and that's
Yeah.
probably, bro, and that's probably how it's gonna be every year, because the way it's set up is like it's all about just the amount of games you're in.
And they're in everything.
Yeah, they just got in everything to do it. Like,
So when I was at EWC, I think a thing I heard from a lot of people is they expect, and we'll see if it happens because politics could prevent it, but the prize money, both for the club championship and for the individual competitions, constantly increasing over time. Obviously, the PIF has got like infinite money, and maybe instead of 7 million, it's 17 million next year. And for these orgs, like an opportunity to win 4 or 5 million with a $750 million investment in a COD team is worth it in their eyes. That's why they're
$750
circling.
$1 million investment. in
Seven
content.
hundred and 50,000 to $1 million.
But yeah, but you get my point. Like I just see the prize money for EWC going up over time, and they're like, sort of long term committed.
It is going to go up. It's going
White
to. It was
Sox-
supposed to be
yeah.
higher this time around. It was supposed.
100%.
So I think it was supposed to be 4 million for first. Not for first, but I think the prize pool was what 1.8 for COD, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was supposed to be 4 from what I've been hearing. I've heard it from a few people. So
I think they dwarfed it because of champs.
because of
And I-
champs,
and I-
yeah, they didn't
And
want to
I think,
outshine it.
one thing EWC will probably keep doing is if you notice the pay structures in all the games, the prize money payout's fairly flat. So even if you show up, you still make a lot of money. It's not very top heavy. And if someone said like they're just throwing money away, you should Google how much money is in the public investment fund, and you would realize this is like pennies to them. This investment. So
What if Gen G comes back in and they pick up Colt Havoc and they build around Colt Havoc? Wouldn't that be a story?
Major Maniac is running back now.
Spacely's back, bro.
Bro, that would be a crazy story if they picked up Colt. And well, I mean Colt. I say Colt because I feel like Colt's still actively involved in the COD scene, you know. And he's like Colt's obviously a great player. I mean, I think Colt's a great player. I think it would be cool to see that happen. But yeah, seeing like Fnatic and Gen G and some of these names is pretty cool. I definitely think we'll see some of these organizations get in because I just based on from what I'm hearing, I mean these teams are trying to. A lot of these teams are trying to get out. Maybe even more that you guys haven't even heard yet. So I'm just curious to see what happens there.
Well, I think the biggest one that's not really named in this one is the Boston situation. We haven't heard a lot about what's going on over there. It's been kind of all quiet on that front, and I'm waiting for more news on like, are they still sticking around? Is someone going to come in and buy the assets from the org? Or are they going to then go to different spots? The Boston situation to me is one I'm watching in the next couple of months.
Can we
Well,
can we take a second, bro? The CDL was the absolute worst,
The worst
thing of all
idea.
time.
It was the worst idea ever.
Christ, bro.
It was the
I
worst
don't,
idea
I
ever.
don't, I don't mind organizations buying out like franchising for cities, but they should have retained. The buy-in shit was stupid,
What an
but they
absolute
should have
waste of
retained
time.
brands, bro. The
Yep.
amount of
Having to start
people,
from zero is so fucking
yeah,
dumb.
the amount of organizations that were turned off from just having to basically make an entire new brand was absurd. Now the way like gaming and esports is trending is like these organizations, yeah, they're still under one org. Like I think C9's doing a good job of it, where they have like their C9 like social media, but they also have separate social medias for every single game, and it's still Cloud9, but it's like representative of just their indicative esport. I think that's like the way esports should have trended instead of this franchising fucking completely new branding model that Call of Duty had. But
No, this was Fantasy Candyland by a bunch of NFL owners
oh
who are all
yeah,
Correct.
friends with each other, and it didn't work out. And now it's pivoting away from that. I'm glad we're getting away. Hopefully, the city-based model kind of goes away for the teams it doesn't make sense for, and we get to kind of the model we should have, which is organizations that want to invest in a way for them to make money through in-game items, and the ability for there to be third-party events. We get more lands for.
You
the
think
fans.
there's a world where more teams come in, or even some of the existing teams just kind of ditch that whole branding? Like let's say for example with LA, like LA Thieves, like it just goes to like LA 100 Thieves or something like that, or they keep maybe 100 Thieves, or maybe
100
or
Thieves
not
LA.
like this. Yeah, 100
Just
Thieves
do
LA,
the name
or
and place like
Well,
every other
well,
fucking team
exactly,
started to
or
do.
like the new teams that come in, like let's say Gen G takes Carolina for example, or like they go
Yeah.
to a new city, it'd be like Carolina
Gen
Gen G,
GNC, oh my god.
Gen G NC. Oh my god, like exactly, like we just drop these like orgs.
Mhm.
I
I mean,
just
that's
think
how it should be.
the city-based thing for the teams that don't want to keep it should be gone, because we're really just not playing to that market, right? Like New York Subliners, they were playing out of fucking Dallas. Like what are we doing at this point on that front? I think like
We're playing
using-
online COD.
well, obviously, but you get my point though. Like we're not activating local markets. We're getting away from the spirit of what this should have been. So let's pivot. Let's try and get those brands. And I understand there's commercial reasons, and I think the team participation agreement update was supposed to address some of these. I think the key thing is when you get back to the parent brands, you bring in a lot more casual fans, and you also solve some commercial issues these orgs have with some of their kind of like overarching partners about getting into the CDL. It makes them more monetizable, and I think it's just better for the fans and for the health of the league anyway.
I mean, there was just no capitalization on the city-based shit anyway. No one does, and no one activates in their home markets. No one I shouldn't say no one, but there are very, very, very few examples of teams that actually engage with their home markets. Like these names have cities attached to them just for the sake of saying that it's city-based franchising. There's no upside.
Yeah.
There's no interaction. There's no
There was
fandom. I mean, not to the extent
Before
of the
COVID.
investment required,
Yeah,
not to the level of which the idea was originally incepted to be. It's just this fucking name, like Atlanta FaZe. What the fuck do they do in Atlanta? Like
Yeah.
Toronto's done
Nothing.
a decent job. What the fuck did New York do in New York? Fucking nothing post COVID. Like all these teams are associated with cities for what? Other than to say
Exactly.
I'm
It
from New
was-
York, so I'm a Subliners fan.
And that's
That's
why
it.
like with the EWC thing and how teams kind of were ditching their branding to a degree to like play in that and represent their like EWC like overall franchise, I feel like that's kind of like the step that we're going in with like like esports being completely unified under like their respective brands and not having separate brands. I feel
mean-
like that would ideally be the best
I mean, I
thing
actually
in the world.
think New York has. I mean, to give credit just to some of the franchises. I know people have done like
Post
community.
COVID is more so. What
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
talking
I know
about, 'cause
people
teams
have
did a
done
decent
community
job
watch
pre-COVID.
parties. Like community watch parties has been a big thing. I know. I've seen
But I'm saying
Thieves
there hasn't
do
been
them.
enough.
Oh, there definitely hasn't
to
been enough.
warrant keeping a city-based franchise model.
Like-
Yeah,
like
no,
even-
there
could
definitely
been,
hasn't
and
been
there
enough.
has
I
been
can't disagree with that.
activations, but
Like
there is
even this
no
one,
reason to keep it.
even this one that you have pulled up, like this was just weird. Like Vegas Falcons, like like why, how, like there was the point.
Well, okay,
Like,
so this was the next topic I wanted to get into this. So Falcons, they bought in. They were able to grab the Vegas spot, and they bring in the 5 guys from Falcons. You got the 4 players. You got the coach. I was confused because I didn't know if they were gonna bring in the Falcons team or try and like build some crazy squad and like buy out
Throw some
and
money.
throw some money at like the best players in the world and see if they can just form a fucking god squad here. And go for it, you know, because who knows, man? You start throwing money at the table. Who knows what people do, you know? So I thought it was really interesting. Then they obviously came out. They released the roster, and I immediately knew. As soon as I looked at the roster, I already knew what the comments were going to be said. I already knew what was going to happen. And now, you know, people are talking about it. Oh, you know, that they're taking spots away from other people who deserve it. You know, challenger spots and this and that.
that's
I
a fair
mean,
criticism though.
yeah, it is. I agree.
But it's, but it's up to them. Like at the end of the day, it's
No,
their
it's a
money,
fair
their-
criticism. It's a definitely fair because listen, there's a lot of great players who are trying to get into the league, and these guys just kind of bought their way in. And I think for them, I think when you watch them play, like mechanically, they're great players. I think they have a lot to learn. I just don't know what kind of situation we're gonna have this year. I mean, I obviously don't want to, you know, tear them down yet. I mean, we haven't even started the season yet. We have to see what these guys can do. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these guys perform because if they don't perform good, you know, I don't know what Falcons is going to want to do here and how they're going to approach it. But what do you guys think?
They're going to get cooked.
I
by
think they're
the
going to get
viewers.
cooked as well. I mean, I think they're going to get cooked. But, I mean,
I
we've
think-
seen some teams who don't look that good on paper, like, get mid-pack, right? Like, get, like, 6th to 8th, like, 5 to... Like, I don't know. If they could get to, like, that top, like, 5, top 8, like, I don't think it would be that bad for them. Like, if they could kind of be in the mid-pack. I just don't know. I don't
think
know.
That's happening. I think they'll get cooked, but they'll get cooked the same amount that the bottom 4 was already going to get cooked, right? Like, that's kind of my one gripe about a lot of the players saying like, oh, they took away these spots, and it's like, yeah, they took away 4 salary spots, but it's not like you were gonna do anything with that spot anyway. So I don't know. I don't care as much because I think they are gonna be equally as bad as whoever the 4 players that would have got this spot would have been.
I mean, it really comes down to how you look at
How
it.
I
Like,
feel about it.
I
Jesus
agree with you
Christ.
in that sense, but it's more so for the fact that like there are players that have potential in the NA scene, or even in the EU scene. that-
Potential, yeah, if they get on a good team,
exactly,
but that's
I'm
not
also-
what's gonna happen.
That's not completely true because players like Joe Deceives, for example, were on literally the dog shit worst team in the league, and then ended up showing promise, getting picked up on a better team, and then now we talk about them so highly. So like, regardless of what you
That's
might
the
think in that
point.
sense, but
If
not
4
saying
players
these guys
that are shit
I'm-
on a shit team are gonna be shit. It's
I'm
no
not saying
different.
let him finish, Pat.
I'm not saying that these guys can't do it. I'm more so saying that there are other, talented players that we've kind of wanted to see what they could do in the league. If you follow challengers, whether it's in the EU scene or NA scene, that they now don't have that, or they now have less of an opportunity or of a chance to kind of get in and show what they can do and potentially rise those ranks. And it's kind of like, I guess,
Bro, but
gifted to
I
players
just hate
like
that
these
logic,
players.
though, Chris, because if
Yeah.
if the conversation is Joe Deceives was always talented, he was just on a shit team. Once he got on a good team, he was able to showcase his talent. But it's like that's up to the GMs and the coaches
Yeah.
to realize that, hey, this player is talented. The player doesn't need to go through the ringer on a shit team for all of a sudden
True.
his talent to be visible.
That is
Like,
true, but
that's
some
on
of
the coaches and the GMs making
that
horrible
is-
moves, which they have nonstop for the last 3 years.
That is
It's-
true, but again, like when you are in the league, regardless if you're on a shit team or a good team, like eyes are on you. When you're in challengers, like there's just less eyes, like period. Like it's no surprise.
But the same thing could be said in the inverse way too, right? Like there could
Yeah.
be players who on a bad team get absolutely world starred, but would be pretty solid on a good team. and their
Yeah.
stock gets ruined and they get sent back to challengers forever. Like it's the same. It works the same way both sides. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. If players and challengers are good enough and coaches and GMs are smart enough, they'll easily make the right move. Like that's just how I see it.
I think you're both not wrong, obviously, for the fraternity of players in EU and NA that are all very close. Like, obviously, a lot of people feel like their friends are not going to get spots now because forward spots are quote unquote taken. Tom, if you don't mind pulling up like Luti's statement, Luti, the coach of Falcons, kind of addressed a little bit of what's going on here.
Also,
go
one
ahead,
last
Chris.
thing I just
No,
wanted
go
to
ahead.
say was like, there's people in chat that are saying
Holy
that
shit.
this team did win an EU Challenger event. That's great. Like I've said, they're not shit. I'm gonna be real here. I'm not gonna say they're the best. I'm also not gonna say like other people in chat they're complete garbage. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, they won an EU Challenger, so clearly they can compete to a degree. But for example, there is a player in EU Challengers that won the last like 5 in a row or something like that, or 4 in a row, dating back to MW2 at like to like the midpoint of MW3, that probably will not be in the league this year. Mythics, he won like 4 EU Challenger things in a row, and he probably won't be in the league. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But like, for example, that player not landing himself a spot in the league or a place that like to showcase that sort of talent for people that don't really watch challengers like that is a shame. Like there are players that are more accomplished than this team that deserve spots over them if you're talking about accolades. So that just sucks. I mean, it's terrible.
I will say this is pretty cool to develop like a full Arab team from the Middle East like this. Like I feel like COD's kind of like getting like that. I don't know how to explain it. Just having like a team that's not from NA, just kind of coming in.
expansion.
Yeah, just like more regional expansion. Like I love that shit. Like I love having them in here. Like I don't know why.
It's a W. That's a W.
Yeah,
When
that's
has
a W. That's
accolades
cool.
or talent mattered though, Chris?
Sorry,
Like-
one more time. I didn't hear you.
When has accolades or talent even mattered in the last few years?
Hey,
it's been about who you know and who you're friends with
it's
for the
true.
last multiple years.
But obviously, I mean, but that's not ideal. That's not right. Just because it's the way it is doesn't mean it's not right. I'm still gonna
Bro, everyone wants
preach
to
and fight
protect
for it. You
themselves
know what I
and
mean?
their friends. It's been the same.
We
thing.
live in
I
a
get
capital
it.
market. Like nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It's all subjective to relationships.
And also, just because like we
people.
don't agree on like one thing, how the fact that like I don't agree or I hate the fact that certain players might not get opportunities because there's less of them now, doesn't mean that I don't think this is still a good thing to some degree. Like both can be true. And what Tom said, like being able to develop a region and having regional expansion, that's a great
fire.
thing.
That is a great
also,
thing.
funny thing, how is an all Saudi team affiliated with Sin City? Isn't that fucking insane?
It's definitely haram for sure.
That's fucking insane. by the way.
That is very funny. So a couple of things here, Chris. I totally hear what you're saying, and I think my response to it is just we have limited spots. This is kind of how things work. Those players are going to have less opportunities now, and they got to take advantage of maintaining relationships. Yeah, Mythics was very good online last year. I know his land placings. I think he was placing 4th in a couple of top 6s. But like a lot of players, like what's his networking like? Is he getting his name out there?
I was using him as an example because somebody was bringing up the fact that they won a Challenger Elite. So I was like, this guy won like 4.
Disband the CDL and go back to a system that puts the top, let's say, 12 teams in the league based on merit. That's what it is. Let's go back to that. And then these orgs who are in the scene will populate their teams based on that.
This was a
the
good
only way
statement,
you're going
by the
back
way.
to what you want, Chris.
This is a good statement.
Yeah.
Never going to happen otherwise in this franchise format.
I think the interesting thing is that in that situation, you also saw a couple of times where teams would qualify into the league and then they would sketch their teammates for their better friends who didn't qualify for the league. We saw that a couple of times in Black Ops 4 and World War II. But
Yeah.
I think
Much rare.
that
And that was when
it definitely
that was when your
happened
friends
though.
that was when your friends didn't qualify too.
That literally happened to that happened to a player that I know. His name was Spoof. He qualified for the league and got dropped for Zinni. Like literally before he got to play a match.
It's insane. It's insane. I want to address the Falcons thing real quick because I think Chris and Pat, this argument's been kind of played out a lot online, and I think we talk about more in future episodes. So I want to summarize a little bit the Luti statement because Tom, I assume you don't want to read 17 paragraphs.
I mean, I just read the whole thing. I mean,
No, I'm
silently.
saying you don't want to read, because we have audio listeners. Like we're not gonna sit here and read.
Oh
the whole
no.
essay.
No, we don't got to read the whole essay.
So I think that the couple of key points here is that one is they want to show some loyalty to the players that are on the roster now that have been grinding for a couple of years and give them a shot. The second thing is that they want to use this as a springboard to develop a bigger esports scene in Saudi Arabia. When I was in EWC, I met and talked to a lot of people at the EWC Foundation, the Saudi Esports Federation, a lot of people that were instrumental in the last 4 or 5 years of developing a scene from nothing. And when I spoke to ultimate about is like, bro, like 2 years ago we were playing 6v6 S&D, and now we're trying to mirror what the CDL is. We want to try and like, we see there's a lot of gaming potential here. Everybody plays games. We want to actually create a path where these people can actually become professional gamers because it doesn't really exist right now in our region. And so that's kind of like aspirationally some of the goal here for Falcons. I think the third thing in the statement is Luti does acknowledge, that it is going to be difficult for them. And that there's a world where, maybe they try this, it doesn't work out, and they pivot to a mixed team. So I think it's like good realism from him. I actually reached out to Luti today, and we're going to try and get him on probably the episode we do kind of in between the beta weekends. And we kind of speak to him more in terms of where is the team going to be based in NA, like all that stuff. And he can kind of speak towards their goals for next season.
Yeah, it would be
Nice.
cool to get him on an episode.
Yeah. And I think my last thing on Falcons too is like, again, they're going to be the most underexperienced team. What are they do in the beginning of the year to catch up? Where are they going to be based out of?
Well, they're
Are they
going to
gonna
be better.
Yeah, they're going to get better very
get better.
quick. They get better
Like,
really quick with the practice for sure.
That was kind of my whole tweet because I put out not quite Luti's link, but a decently long tweet. And I think that I share the same sentiment as Chris and Patu. There is now 8 roster spots within the CDL. Granted, if they would have been utilized properly, even if they weren't region locked to Pat's point, probably not. But that chance of happening is now completely zero until shown otherwise. Miami's still sticking to that all Spanish thing. And granted, Luti did say in the future they could be open to the NAU thing, but right now they're not. So we have at least another full year of 8 spots that are going to be within that region specific idea
Actually
that they
more.
have. And I think that what Tom said is the number one takeaway I would say is that it is really good exposure for Mina. I'm going to use Rocket League here because it's just what's on right now, and it's another esport that's a pretty easy comparison here. Falcons and Mina in general was like a super underdeveloped region in Rocket League, and now Falcons is probably the best team in the world. So yes, they did buy their way to the top to get the level of which you can skip steps to immediately put your team in the CDL and get the reps to do that. I am of the opinion that they should have fielded this roster within NA Challengers at first and then built upon whatever the scraps of which Vegas had. Because I was a decent fan, as everyone watching the show knows, of their trio and Geo, Nero, and Attach, and tried to do something within Rostermania because I think that this Falcons team within NA Challengers would improve, not quite as drastically as they would have in the CDL getting fucking shit stomped by Toronto Ultra, but I think they would have improved rapidly as well. And I think it was also very good regional exposure. So I don't know their philosophy about challengers. I don't know if they're bringing in another full MENA team similar to how like Miami is just going to farm Spanish players in challengers. But I think it is good to unlock the region just for the esport in general and for the world exposure of COD. Do I agree with how they went about doing it? No, but I still think it is a good thing at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean,
Well
that's
said.
just
Well said.
my
It
take
has
on
it has its pros and cons for sure.
Yeah, we'll get Luti on, and I when I talk to Luti, like obviously we'll have questions, and we'll try and get some unique questions. So all the things you guys want to know, hopefully we'll get to him when we have an episode next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and then the Vegas guys, obviously from the whole Falcons thing coming in, they obviously bring in the whole squad from over there from Saudi, and now these guys, you got Nero, you have Geo, you have Attach, you had all these guys you had Fame, all these guys on Vegas. What happens with them? Where do they go? Back to challengers? Maybe you could see some of these guys getting on their team. I know.
I would be fucking flabbergasted if Geo, Nero, or Attach are not in the league next year. All 3 of them.
Yeah, somewhere somebody's got to pick
I
them
would
up.
be fucking beside myself if all 3 of these players are not on the roster.
There's another young player sitting on a roster now by himself, aka Carolina. Does Gwyn think about trying to team up with some of these players
maybe
on that spot?
I mean, for sure. I'm sure Gwen's looking at everybody. I mean, but Gwen's got to sit down at the table and look at everybody now. He's got to look at every player, and he's not going to be able to pull anybody from, FaZe Opt. He's not going to be able to pull anybody from the top 4. So you got FaZe, Optic, New York, Toronto. I mean, if he wants to go down maybe like the Insight route or something, if he wants to go down that route. But I mean, I just don't know. If you're Gwen, you definitely got to look at some of these Vegas guys, in my opinion.
Are you guys surprised that Tej is unrestricted?
No, I'm
I
not
thought
surprised.
Tej had a fucking great year.
But he's not going to buy.
Good.
He's not going to buy out the man. So restricting him, I don't think anyone's going to pay for him.
Did they sign him to I guess just the 1 year because he came in obviously after Major 1. But I thought Tej's year was fucking great. If he's not in the league next year, I would be very surprised as well.
I think it's depends on the team.
He had it's a kind of a meme term, but he genuinely had like a renaissance year. Like he was a genuinely very, very, very good Call of Duty player for I think the majority of the season since he joined Ravens. I thought he was great.
It's just a case of like no one's the buyout market. I don't think is gonna be crazy for role players. It's not like the first couple of years. So I think like obviously they want to save some money. Could they bring TJ back? Yeah, but I don't think anyone's gonna be willing. It's not to diss on TJ's ability because I think he had a great season, probably his best season in a couple of years this year. But just from an economic perspective, like you know what I'm saying, just let him get offers. If you want to bring him back, you bring him back.
Was insane, bro. Minnesota played like $400K for Assault and Silly.
Yeah, they were trolling.
Damn.
See, I don't play 400K for me.
They didn't know what the fuck. They didn't know what the fuck.
400,000.
Bro, these people were delusional, bro.
I mean, that's why they need proper guidance, man. Like, even talking about some of these new organizations coming in, like, Sam, you were kind of touching on it, right? Like, they're going to get the low-tier players. They're not going to know what the fuck to do.
Exactly.
Like, these
just going to put a sour taste in their mouth right away.
That's why they need, it's really important that when you're a new organization, you come in, like, you really need a good foundation. Like, you need to find somebody who's been a part of the scene for a lot of years, knows what he's doing, and can actually.
That's what Luti's kind of doing for Falcons. Granted, he hasn't been like a household name in COD, but he's been around for a long time, and I'm going to assume his knowledge of Call of Duty in general should be above that of the normal person. I feel like he's kind of ushering them a little bit because he is the outsider of that whole ping, you know?
Yeah, kind of putting that whole camp together, kind of forming them, you know, trying to, you know, obviously teach them the ways of COD. I mean, and I think them practicing in NA is going to be, we talked about it, but them practicing in NA is they're going to get them way better than what they are now, which is interesting to think about. But yeah, it's a good point, though, Sam. Luti's been around for a minute now. But go ahead, Ben.
No, it's gonna be funny throwing Luti into the NAGA chat because I know he ran things in EU and they were always a little bit quicker.
I thought I remembered it being him, but I didn't want to say it because I didn't remember.
So that'll be a fun dynamic for next season. But I mean, look for the Falcons team, like what do they do to try and get good early and obviously showing like Fame on screen. Like I'm curious to see where Fame lands. And I'm curious what happens to Dylan Attach, who has not tweeted anything about his free agent yet.
You know Dill's cooking, bro.
He's been quiet, man.
You know
He's
Dill's
been quiet.
cooking.
We'll see what Dylan's Rostermania masterminds every year, so we'll see what he's chefing up.
That is the worst part, though, when it's like things just blow up. You're like, oh shit, and you got to message a bunch of people now, see what's going on,
you
who's
got
doing
7
what.
Group chats going at one time around the phone 12 hours a day.
I won't be surprised if Dylan Attach ends up back on Minnesota ROKKR.
Y'all think Clay gets back on the team? I saw his tweet. He was like, I don't know if I'm done. If any orgs want to talk or whatever.
Respectfully.
Yeah.
You said what, Sam? You said respectfully what?
I don't think he does. I think if he does, this is going to sound so fucked. I think it is strictly on name value if he is in the league this year. As bad as it sounds, I know it's horrible, and I love Clay. Clay's one of the goats. One of my good friends.
Donald Trump impression, the way you're doing it right there?
Great guy. Great friend of mine. Good people. I don't think he does.
I think
if he does, I think it's off
and do the desk or do talent.
I mean, yeah, he does a great job on the desk if that's what he wants to do. But Clay's still trying to play, based on what I've seen on the timeline. So like, he wants to play.
Try to play.
But that's my thing. It's like, okay, let me ask you this way: let's assume Clay gets on a league in a league team. Do you think there's any team he can get on that has a shot in hell at winning, or even getting top 4? I feel like the answer is no. And in that case, it's like, bro, does he really want to be his age scrimming all day to know he's on a bad team? Like. I just feel like
that's his decision. I mean, that's his decision. He has to make.
Miserable. That's what I'm saying.
Unless you're actually feeling confident about a roster you have on paper, I probably wouldn't play.
That's what I'm saying. Like online COD is where he was like losing his mind, and like he's never going to be in a stable enough situation on these mid-low pack teams because he's not going to be on the top 4 again. He's going to be in situations similar to the one that he had this year, where you're playing online COD. Maybe you're together. Maybe you're not. You don't know the situation. Do you have a steady roster? Do you like the fucking game? Like, there's so many things.
I feel bad for him just because he actually was better on LAN.
No, he was.
So,
but the problem is he was so. I love Clay, but like,
it's not even about his talent. It's just the way it is. He can't get on a winning team, and
I'm sure like a lot of old heads and just Clay, he's very prideful, and he feels like he's still skillful enough to win. Even though he keeps finding himself in positions that are probably unwinnable. He just feels like he can probably get back up to that level and maybe play to the point where people recognize that, and maybe he ends up getting back on a roster that can contend for winning, although it's probably not going to happen. It sucks. He's probably just holding on to that because, I think I definitely was there before in my career, so that's probably where he's at.
I saw a crazy stat. I was doing some research that like he online this year, he didn't have any higher than like a 0.95 overall. And the only split where he had like a really good one game mode online S&D, one game mode online where he was like above a 1 was in hard point like in the beginning of the season. Other than that, he was getting kind of slammed across all 3 modes. Is super inconsistent. And unfortunately, with today's format the way it is now, like it's just not good enough. Obviously, the format pivots. It's more land based. Maybe online's more tournament based. I could see him being in a better position to get on some of these teams. But to your point, Pat, like if he does sneak on to like a Boston Breach, like it's not a championship contender, you know, you're just kind of grinding for the bottom to keep a spot.
Is it worth it to be 8 through 12?
That's only a question I guess he can answer.
If it's for the love of the game.
Bro, you can love the game as much as you want. Getting world start is not fun.
If
you
he
don't
just
love
wants
it.
to compete, I don't know.
Yeah, we didn't give much thoughts on the Miami situation. We got ROKKR coming in. They replaced
Who did he
Vickle,
come
correct?
in for? Did I miss
Vickle.
this?
I think it's Vickle.
Was it for Javi?
Is it for Javi? Have they said?
Javi, I don't think anyone's announced anything on that team.
Oh, for real? Oh, shit. I saw something on Reddit.
Let me see.
This could be one of those weird like, bro. I never trust this organization because they could be
It's
just
not
having a
elite, bro.
5
I
players.
actually don't know. I actually
Vickle has
don't know.
league boss.
I actually
Vickle-
don't know.
Oh, hold on. It
It's not
could be one of those
tweeting.
All I
weird.
know is it's
I actually don't know, bro.
It could be one of those weird situations where they have a 5-player roster again, and we'll see how scrims go and we'll see who starts. But like, someone's got to rotate out for ROKKR. I know there was a lot of talk about Super, and Super came out.
Where is Super
there's no-
Dog?
Said
That
He's
guy
in
is
bed
a-
on his phone. You didn't see his tweets?
That
He's
guy
fucking
is
crying in bed.
that guy is a shooter, bruh. Like a legit
Not for
shooter.
the
That
Miami
guy.
Heretics, he's not.
It's true, but that guy. Listen, that guy.
He is
People could
gross.
say what they want, like kill whore this, kill whore that. That guy puts up insane stats. All I'm gonna say, and I'm not comparing him in any way. I'm just saying narratives like that started for other players. Dashy back in the day.
You got to
when he
be able
was-
to kill Horde.
when he was playing with lower tier teams, you know, rising the ranks through the amateur scene, and look at him now. I'm not saying that's going to be a thing for him, but I'm just saying that guy puts up his insane stats in challengers. So I don't know why that guy's not on people's radar, or maybe he is. But ROKKR, I actually played with him. I played with him. I picked up for the roster at Dallas in Modern Warfare 2 or 2022 or whatever. We were like a pickup team, and that kid's gross. ROKKR is actually a good AR player. Weird thing about him though is he was actually blacklisted in EU challengers for a while.
Really? And he kind of looks like Zinni,
People
too.
are
It's like a
cheating,
Spanish
though.
Zinni.
Is that what it was?
He
It looks
Chris?
like Zinni and Spacely had a baby.
Yeah.
He was blacklisted because apparently, like when he was younger and rising up through the ranks, and playing like in the S&D scene and stuff like that before he decided to compete seriously, people said that he was playing with like cheaters and like S&D, S&D like
shit.
like what do they call it, chows or whatever?
Yeah, you would know,
Or
wouldn't you?
tournaments. Well, I
How's he
only knew
always know
this
about this
because
shit, Sam?
How's he always
Always,
know?
every fucking time, man.
I was told about this stuff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
I was told about this stuff. So the fact that he kind of like obviously cleared his name, you know, started performing on LAN, playing, you know, with like legitimate players and stuff like that. That's kind of crazy to think about for people that don't really know anything about his history.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know anything about that. From my understanding, though, ROKKR's been really good in challenges. He's been performing well. He's been playing well. He's been a good player. And obviously, I mean, Heretics are gonna, if they're making changes, they're gonna try and upgrade. So clearly, they see a lot in him. So, and he's an AR player, correct? He's an AR player. So best of luck to him. We'll see.
That's
We'll see
the
how he
weird thing though,
performs.
because you guys were saying Vickle, but Vickle was running a sub at the end of the year. So is that if it's Vickle?
Bro,
does that
I
mean
thought
that
I read.
Metals
I
is
thought
going
I
back
read
to
that
a-
it was Vickle, bro. I thought I read somewhere that it was him.
That's what I'm
Okay, yeah,
saying,
you read it
though.
in your
You
DMs.
know what I mean? I thought I read that somewhere. You know?
If it is
Yeah,
Vickle, does that mean that Metals is going back to running an SMG?
He was good as fuck on the AR.
I don't think anyone fucking knows that team.
Yeah, world
and,
started
and,
obviously,
and,
but-
and the bigger issue for me is rotate one player in and out. Like it's just gonna solve their biggest issue, which is they're inconsistent. That's why they're went 0-6 at the first 2 lanes. That's why they had a list in the middle of the season where they were good, and that's why they sucked donkey balls the last 2 events of the year. This team is
Donkey balls.
team's just super.
That's what you came up with.
Sure, but
They're
this team is
just not
super
good at
inconsistent.
respawn, especially hardpoint.
Donkey balls.
They were not. They
Flame
were not
power.
good at anything the first 2
didn't have
this
events.
guy,
and,
yeah.
The flame
and
power.
they were
They-
either
they-
3-0ing or getting 3-0'd.
They
Like
were a good search team at the end of the year, though.
100%. But then, like they were winning searches at LAN, they weren't winning respawns. That's why they
Yeah.
were non-existent at champs or at EWC. Like whatever this team does personnel-wise, they also need to improve their system to get more consistent replacements. Enough top 12s actually try and make it to some Sundays and stop being this team that we're waiting to see the good potential of when they 3-0 Optic during stage 1.
I'm just curious to see how they're gonna like do the
Yeah, they did
roster
lose
with
to
like
Stallions.
roles because he is an AR, so that means either Lucky or Metals is gonna be out if it's just their current roles, and Lucky or Thick will continue to run a sub, or maybe they swap Metals back to an SMG because Metals was good with the sub at the beginning of the year and then just completely fell off a cliff with it. But obviously that could just be towards like internal issues and him not being comfortable and the team not being comfortable, so he kind of had to make some sort of a switch there, or I don't know what else it could have been, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, I was gonna ask you guys if there's any other more Rostermania stuff that you think we've missed or didn't talk about. I mean, that was everything that I had here, but I don't know if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, cover. Any final moments, final statements? Go ahead, the floor is yours. If not, I think I'm expecting a lot more roster changes to happen in the near future. A lot more, rumors and stuff. We'll definitely be running shows. Ben, I saw your tweet too, or if anybody's in the YouTube comments or in the chat, if you guys have any ideas that you want us to do, I mean, we'll run some shows and play some games and do some other stuff. Like we'll find ways to get some content out there and do shows for you guys. We can also get some guests on. I see some people saying Mac. Getting MackMelts would be cool. I'm down for everybody. I know Shane from 100 Thieves wanted to come on, Coach Shane. So definitely got to get Shane.
Yeah.
Yep, I know that'll be pretty cool. So we'll figure it out, man. We'll figure it out. We'll run some shows. But any final thoughts, guys?
I think so.
All right. Well, guys,
Cool
thank
with
you
the
all
announcements,
so much for watching. It was nice to get everybody together. I know it's been a while since we had all 5 of the co-hosts here, so thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Go to anchor.fm/theflank to check out all the audio sites are on, and go follow @theflank on Twitter. Gert's doing a phenomenal job running socials, man. As always, take care, brush your hair, and we'll see you guys next time on another episode of The Flank. Benja, you want to hit a putt real quick or what?
Nah.
Okay, we're out of here. Take care, guys. This fucking guy, man.
Ben did the whole damn episode.
It's the ball mask.